All right, we have been working on fables over the past few lessons, and those are stories that tell or to teach a lesson. So we read several of them last week, and this week you're going to read another one. You're going to read The Lion and the Mouse. It's a very short, and we're looking at this fable today because we're going to be taking a look at grammar within it. So while you are doing this lesson, I'm going to have you stop this video and work on a few things as we go. So I'll give you the instruction, you'll pause the video, you'll complete the part of the task that I need you to do, and then you'll come back and play the video again to check your work. Okay, so again, we are working in the genre of fables, and this is a type of literature that has been around for a long time because it teaches lessons. So before people were reading books or on the internet with all the technology, they were telling stories to one another that were designed to teach lessons, and they were fun. Usually you have animals that talk, things that are pretend and imaginative, but there's always a lesson to learn. So there'll be a lesson to learn in our story or our fable today about the lion and the mouse. So the first thing I want you to do is you're going to need your story, The Lion and the Mouse. You have it digitally on Classroom. If you want a paper copy, come to my room and grab a paper copy. I have those for you too, because you're going to be picking out some parts of speech. And if you would rather do that on a piece of paper, I have that for you. So you're going to need your story, first of all, digital or on paper copy, and you're going to need 3 colors. You're going to need green, yellow, and pink. So if you're doing it digitally, you'll be able to highlight those words or use your Doodle Buddy to highlight those words. If you're doing it paper copy, you're going to need to find highlighters or a crayon or a colored pencil with those 3 colors, green, yellow, and pink. When you have your materials, come back. Okay, hopefully you have paused the video and you have gathered the materials that you are going to use. If you're doing it digitally, then you have it all on Classroom. So the first thing that I want us to do is we are going to find 2 parts of speech. The first thing we are going to find is we are going to read through the story to find nouns. So if you remember, a noun is a person. Hopefully you're saying it with me because I know you know these. A person, a place, a thing, or sometimes an idea. Okay, like a thought or a feeling. All right, so you're looking for a person, a place, a thing, or an idea. So while you read your fable today, The Lion and the Mouse, when you find nouns, I want you to highlight that. Let's see what color it was. Yellow. Any noun, I want you to highlight color on Doodle Buddy highlight, whatever it is, whatever source you're using, make the nouns yellow. Person, place, thing, or idea. Then the other thing I want you looking for on here is an action verb. Okay, so hopefully you remember the verb is something that you can do, okay? And I'm wanting specifically, in this case, an action verb, so it is something that you can do. So like read, I can pick something up and I can read it. Run, I can run through somewhere. So think about if you can actually do it, if you can act it out, then it's going to be an action verb, something that you can do. And I want you to highlight or color those in green. So that's your first step. Read through The Lion and the Mouse, highlight your nouns yellow, and anything that is an action verb green. Once you have that, unpause the video and come back and we'll check. Okay, so hopefully you have taken a moment to read this story, and I'm wondering if you had any trouble. So these are basic things that you've been working on, nouns you've been working on since kindergarten, 1st grade, verbs the same way. But when you put it in a story like this, is it a little more challenging to find? Maybe you had to remind yourself what the definition of a noun was to be able to check if this word was or was not a noun, okay? So I'm looking through mine that I highlighted, and I'm seeing a lot of names. A lot of names were nouns. Person, or in this case, an animal, like the lion, the mouse, hunters, the ropes that they use, that would be a thing. Mouse, again, teeth, his rope, he gnawed his rope with his teeth. So those would all be nouns. How about your verbs? Were those a little more difficult to find? I was kind of checking mine by thinking when I saw that name of the mouse, what was the mouse doing? Was the mouse gnawing the rope? Was he using his teeth? How about when he bound him up? So that's an action. He's binding him up with ropes. He rose up angrily. So I highlighted rose because that's an action. He's moving. Okay? And then we're going to take this to the next step. We're going to think about what happens in our simple sentences. And actually, I'm going to turn or move my camera over a little bit so that we can see this. I have a little more space on my board, maybe over here. Okay, so I'm going to take a simple sentence out of our story today. We had a sentence, let's see, the lion laughed and let him go. You don't have to write this, I just want you to follow along with me for now, okay? The lion laughed and let him go. I'm going to stick with just this part first. I'm going to shorten it down even smaller. So if I think about just this part of the sentence, do I have a noun? Do I have a person, place, or thing? In this case, I have the animal, right? This is my noun. And then what was it that the lion did? The lion laughed. So this is my verb. So I want to know, is this a complete sentence? Does it have a subject and a predicate? Does it have both parts? We have the lion, that's our subject. So I'm going to put S-N, for this is our subject noun. And then what did the lion do? The lion laughed, right? So we have a verb. This little word the, a, and, they're all considered articles. So I'm going to put a for article there. So I have each word, the lion laughed, in a complete sentence. Now let me ask you this. That's a pretty simple sentence, right? Were all the sentences in this story this simple? Can you imagine what a story would be like if they were just that simple? The lion laughed. He fell asleep. Would you care? Would you want to read more? I don't think I would. I think I would be very bored. So let's think about how we can make this sentence more interesting. How could we describe the lion? Could we use a word that made that idea of the lion a little more interesting? How about or the ferocious lion? Would that be a little more interesting? Now we're thinking of a picture in our head. If it's a ferocious lion and he's laughing, maybe that laughter isn't quite so fun. Maybe it's a little intimidating. Maybe it's an evil laugh. Does that start to get a picture going in your head? So if I change my sentence to the ferocious lion laughed, I still have a complete thought. I still have a subject noun. I still have a verb. This is still an article. Now this word, ferocious, it describes our noun, right? Ferocious describes the lion. So we're going to call this one, it is an adjective. ADJ, I'm going to use to abbreviate. It is an adjective. It describes the lion. So by adding that adjective into my sentence, it made it a lot more interesting, right? The ferocious lion laughed. Okay? Let's make it even better. Let's think of a word that we can use to describe laughed. So by adding the word ferocious, I said maybe that kind of gives us the idea that the lion is not so friendly, right? He's laughing in a mean or an angry way. So could we add a word to describe how he laughed? The ferocious lion laughed, how about uncontrollably? So then you're thinking about him being evil and laughing and he's out of control. So the ferocious lion laughed uncontrollably. If I add that, uncontrollably. It's giving us a little more information. It's making our sentence a little more interesting. So in this case, my last word described a noun, so we called it an adjective. When I say uncontrollably, I'm not talking about the lion anymore. I'm talking about the laughter being out of control. So I'm not describing a noun, I'm describing the verb, right? So we're going to call that an adverb, or ADV. An adverb describes the verb. So if you can remember add at the front as being describing, adjective describes the noun, adverb describes the verb, okay? So why do we need these? We took such a simple sentence, the lion laughed, and we turned it into something that was so much more descriptive. The ferocious lion laughed uncontrollably. Now we can picture that. That makes it much more interesting to read, doesn't it? So now your job is you're going to go back into that story and you're going to add a few more things. Look for those descriptive words. If you find either an adjective describing a noun, or if you find an adverb describing a verb, I want you to highlight that or color that pink. So wherever you see an adverb or an adjective, either one, a describing word, I want you to highlight it pink, and I want you to think, how does that make the story more interesting when you have descriptive words to go with it? Okay, so go ahead and stop the video, and I want you to highlight those few things, and then I have a question that I want you to answer at the bottom of the post.